All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. Our monthly webinar today, we're going to talk about AI. I think probably if you've not been living under a rock for, the last few months, you probably have had conversations with folks about AI. Some of you have had conversations with us about AI. And that's why we're doing this webinar. We've gotten a ton of questions about, AI in our world, how we're using it, how isolved is evolving, what the platform can do, and so forth. So we figured we would do a quick webinar and fill everybody in and get going on this. So I'm Chris Clough. You all know me from every month. This month I've got a great guest, Chris Fortin here. Chris is the founder of Chatham Oaks Growth Solutions, lives right in Kennebunkport with us. And he and his team are really working with small businesses to help them really optimize AI strategies. So Chris, I'll let you say a few words about yourself to get things kicked off.
Great. Thank you, Chris. Really appreciate the opportunity to share some of this stuff with you guys. As Chris mentioned, I grew up here in Kennebunkport. I used to have a moving company with my friend Thomas called Service Pros. They're still operating locally. And I wish I had this kind of technology when I was operating my business. It's totally transformed how businesses operate and how people think about business. So I recently got into this over the past 6 months, and I've really learned a lot about how AI can be useful in businesses, and I'm trying to bring that to our community here. So I appreciate this opportunity again, Chris. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. All right, so a lot to cover today. We're going to talk a little bit high level AI stuff. We're going to dig into some of the AI tools we have within the isolved platform today and what's coming down the road. We've got some exciting things coming down the road. We're going to talk about, Chris is going to run us through putting AI to work in your business. So we're going to talk kind of high level about different ways you can use AI in your business potentially. There's no right or wrong way. You just got to get started, to be honest with you. And then, most importantly, we want to talk about how we use AI responsibly and keep information secure and so forth. So we'll talk about that as well. So AI is absolutely changing the way that we work. We know that we are all at capacity. Who on this webinar doesn't, has more than a few minutes of free time in their day? I'd like to know. I can tell you that we have been embracing a lot of these AI tools and really creating some significant time savings and energy savings here internally. So it's definitely something that everyone should look into and try to improve operations with. So we know that our costs are up, right? It's more expensive to be doing business. It's more complex to be doing business. Finding good people is really hard. And all that busy work is piling up. So a lot of these tools we're going to talk about today are really going to help you save time, save energy, work smarter, and really give you that gift of time back, which none of us have enough of. So I think there's a lot of concern around the world, around the country, a lot of conversations going about AI is going to replace a lot of us, and I think that the prevailing thoughts today are really we want to use AI to augment what we're doing, right, in our businesses, in our processes, in our operations, not replace you, right? There still needs to be a human element in what we do. There needs to be human decisions that are happening. I sure if any of you have called a business and gotten an AI answering service, you know exactly what I mean, right? There needs to be a human element there. I can't tell you how many times I've said customer service agent to those folks, and they sometimes don't listen. So definitely it's not perfect, but I will say it's getting better and better every day. It really is going to help you, draft, summarize. It's learning your processes. It is very, very good at listening. I've, joked with my team that Claude's my best employee. He listens and he does exactly what I tell him to do every time. He doesn't ask for instructions over and over and over. So that's a good thing as well. You can use it to research, and then again, you're deciding what is the final product. You're deciding what that output looks like and how it's going to work and so forth. So we really want to be thinking about ways to augment our brains and our learning and our capacity, not replace us. So. We're going to talk about a lot of different tools today. These are probably the most common AI tools out there. We use Claude pretty heavily internally, so we're going to talk a lot about that and use that as the example. I would say Claude is kind of the most powerful business minded AI tool right now. A lot of people have used ChatGPT as well. I call that kind of the consumer version. ChatGPT is very great all around tool, but Claude is much more powerful. For those of you using Microsoft 365 or Google Workspaces, You have access to Pilot or Gemini, Copilot or Gemini. Those are great tools as well. Those are built into the apps that you use every day. You can draft email responses in Outlook using Copilot. You can have Excel create pivot tables for you, do really complicated formulas. So there's a lot of things within there. Similarly, in Gemini, that is a little more well-rounded in that it kind of goes out and searches the web. It uses the best of what Google has to offer in there. So those are all kind of, common tools that we use. I'm sure if you've ever been on a Zoom or a Teams meeting, someone has an AI note taker that's on there taking notes. Those are pretty common these days. We use those, in our Teams meeting, right? We pay for the Teams license that allows us to have that AI note taking and allows us to kind of use those as well. So those are really, really common tools in the toolkit. Chris, what do you think? Is anything else out there that people might want to think about in terms of tools to be using today?
No, I think those are pretty basic and a good spot to start. Outside of that, when it gets to specifics for a certain workflow or something that you want to automate, there's some other tools in there. But from the basics of helping understand your business and to do research and take notes, I think those are great.
Perfect. And as a reminder, we always record these. They'll be posted on our YouTube channel tomorrow, so don't feel need to take screenshots and so forth. We'll be getting all this information out to you tomorrow. So let's talk about AI within iSolved. So iSolved is our payroll platform, of course, and iSolved has been developing over the last year or so some enhancements to the platform. Basic small steps in terms of what's available. So these are some of the features that are available right now or very shortly. Very exciting at the iSolved conference back in June. They made a ton of announcements, and we'll get into a little bit more of that in just a second. But there is a Claude connector for iSolved now. This is an employee-focused Claude connector. So if you go into Claude, go into connectors, search for iSolved, this allows employees to do all the things that they can do within the iSolved app. Things like requesting time off, reviewing their payroll data, how much time off do I have? Those kind of questions are in there and available today. The always on HR chatbot. So this is something where you load in data, things like your employee handbook, your benefits information, your policies, all that can go in there. And when employees are asking questions of this chatbot within the iSolved app, it can pull information from your policies, right? So if it wants to know what your maternity leave policy is, they can ask that. It'll review your policies and spit that back out. My guess is we're going to see this always on HR chatbot kind of integrate with Claude over the time. So that will be kind of changing, soon, I believe. Perfect Payroll Assist. So this is, if you've been running payroll in there, you've noticed that the payroll processing screen has changed. We have now the ability to review a lot of the high level payroll information before we process. Makes it a lot easier to see. Makes sure we're not having any issues or mistakes. We can turn on an AI assistant to go with that, and that will review things a little bit more in depth. It will learn more about your patterns and so forth, and that will kind of help you, reduce errors when processing payroll. Within our applicant tracking platform, we have the ability to use AI to screen candidates, right? So if you're using keywords and things like that in your resumes, I can't tell you every time I post a job, we get 100 applications, which is fabulous. About 90 of them are garbage, right? They're either in India or they are, the Dunkin' Donuts manager, not a great fit for us. And that there's tools within the applicant tracking system to help, pre-screen some of those candidates out for you. Coming very soon, within the next couple of months, the benefits integration tool, benefits enrollment tool is getting a big update in terms of AI. That's going to really help employees better understand what they've got for benefit options. They can go in and ask, like, hey, I'm a diabetic. What does this plan cover, right? And it's going to read the plan documents and better answer those questions so that as they're making benefit selections, they're better informed. We've got within the performance management module, uh, the new AI tools in there will allow you to kind of pull together all the notes, occurrences, successes, anything that's in the system. Over time, it'll help you draft your performance reviews based on the information that's in there. And then a big one that we've been waiting for several years now is multi-language support. So there's going to be an AI feature within the system that will essentially translate the entire platform into one of any number of languages. So that's coming, I believe, before year end was what we heard. in there. So this is talking a little bit more about that Claude connector, right? So this is if you go inside to Claude right now, you can add this. Again, this is an employee-only level connector that allows them to log in securely to iSolved and use their information, right? They can chat, say, how much PTO do I have off? I want to request time off, show me my pay stub, all that kind of stuff. That's live today, turned on and available for every employee that wants to use it. So when we went to the iSolve conference back in June, they were hyping this up a lot. iSolve is kind of pivoting, and what they're doing is rather than building their own AI tools as they've done, some of these features that are already out there, they're essentially rebuilding the platform and using Claude and the Anthropic AI engine behind it as the new base for the platform. So rather than building it themselves, starting from scratch, they're going to go into the best in class product out there right now, which is Claude and Anthropic. The other nice thing is Anthropic is very security focused, right? So we know we're dealing with a lot of sensitive data, and Anthropic in particular has spent a ton of time and energy and development into ensuring that the data that's being used in here and we're storing in here and running through here is secure, is not being shared, is not hackable, all those fun things, making sure we're keeping up on everything. So certainly it's not training on any of your data, right? Everything we're doing is paid subscriptions. The models are not learning based on what you're entering in. There's no log retention. That's one of the things that they're making sure of. They're not kept indefinitely, so the platform's continuing to learn. We know that because Anthropic is developing Claude so quickly, that the iSolve platform itself is going to benefit from that and continue to grow and add smarter and better capabilities quicker. And we know it's going to get better over time because, of course, Claude and Anthropic are, I mean, I can't tell you, we've been using Claude maybe 6 or 7 months. And in that time, the platform has dramatically changed and gotten markedly better. So we're going to see some big shifts within the iSolve platform within the next 6 to 12 months. Chief among them, rolling out again in the next 6 to 12 months, iSolve's building the concept of these agents within the platform. So an agent, similarly to an employee, right, does a task, and these agents are trained and designed to do specific tasks. So these are the first six that they're starting with. We're going to start with the Guardian. That's similar to that perfect payroll platform. It's going to be coming out and basically looking for red flags, looking for issues. So and so wasn't paid. Someone was paid too much or too little. Gosh, their benefits didn't get taken out. Looking for all those types of things and helping more accurately process payroll, right? So that's going to be the Guardian. Then we've got the Advisor, and again, this is kind of that benefits stuff that we were talking about. The benefits enrollment is going to get a lot smarter. Employees are going to be able to go through and ask questions and review. There's the potential through the integrations of looking at some claims history and things like that in the future to help them choose the right plans that will be better for them. This is going to talk about employee retention, right? We know it's hard to find employees, it's hard to keep employees. There's tools within the system that's going to try to help spot, risky employees, folks that might be leaving sooner before they leave, right? That's important. We want to be keeping an eye on that. Talk about the orchestrator. This is going to be kind of an onboarding tool. So better orchestrating that new hire onboarding and offboarding for employees, making sure they have a much better experience, make sure compliance tasks are taken care of. The Watchdog, I'm particularly excited about this. This is going to talk about all the compliance things that we have to worry about. So when you hit 10 employees, we need to talk about Maine earned paid leave, right? When you hit 20 employees, you need to talk about COBRA. When you hit 50 employees, let's talk about ACA. All those kind of things that are out there. And not to mention all of the other, little things that change every year, right? This year we know we have pay transparency in Maine. We have, digital surveillance laws we have to comply with now. So using those tools to better keep us on top of our toes with that. So, and then the helper, again, this is going to kind of replace that always on HR tool that's there today and really answer those HR questions that employees are looking for. So this is where we're headed in the next, 6 to 12 months. We're going to see some significant changes in the platform. I don't have release dates. I don't have details on what these look like. These were just kind of the big conference announcements that were made back in June. So we're hopeful that we will continue to see these. When we talked about rollout and timetable, essentially they said within the next 6 to 12 months. So we'll be seeing a lot of changes within the platform in that time. The other big thing that iSolved is working towards is what they're calling workforce capital management. So we've talked about, we know, we talk about human capital management, which is kind of the industry that we're in today. And what they're trying to focus on is really managing your entire workforce. And that includes all of your AI agents, all your AI tools, right? So for those of you that are having, AI run processes for you or do things, how do you manage that, right? How do you know what people are doing, first of all? Right? What's everyone, how is everyone using these tools? Make sure we're keeping track of them and making sure that we're not letting them run amok, certainly. And then, governing them, making sure we're managing staff, switching agents off, onboarding and offboarding these agents and AI tools just the same way you do employees. So that's going to be a big change in the platform as well, as there's going to be more features to help you track the AI tools that you're using. Because again, this is something that we're all using. And we've had conversations internally about, well, so and so does this, and I do that, and how do we manage this, and how do we not duplicate efforts, and so forth. So really having a tool to keep everything in line will be helpful as well. So, Chris, let's talk a little bit about how folks can use AI within their businesses today.
Awesome. Yeah. So outside of all I saw, let's go through how AI can be used in other ways. And just as a warning, everything we're going to go through is a generic example. For instance, my business runs on AI differently than Paper Trails does. So whatever business you operate, your setup's going to look a little bit different than both of ours. So I'm hoping that this will give you guys some more context so you can start exploring AI and head in the right direction. So garbage in, garbage out, as Chris likes to call it, which to me is simply organizing data and connecting systems. So what that actually looks like is when I would work with a business, 9 times out of 10, there's no single source of truth. There's a pricing spreadsheet on somebody's desktop called pricing final V2, or there's another version living in someone's inbox in March. And there's third one the manager thinks is the real one. So none of them actually agree with each other. And on top of that, a lot of small businesses are running systems that don't talk to one another. For instance, they have payroll, CRM, scheduling, accounting softwares where people are manually putting data into them, or an automation that someone set up that no one's has really checked on to send data back and forth to each other, which is honestly one of the most common things I find when I look at a company's tech stack. So when I say a single source of truth, I mean one system of record for each type of information, one place for pricing, one place for customer data, one place for policies. It's actually connected to the tools that you use day to day instead of living in somebody's head or on a spreadsheet no one has access to. And what's cool, Chris, is that this matters a lot more than it used to. Because with AI, it doesn't know which one of your pricing sheets is correct. It'll just answer confidently using whatever you hand it, right or wrong. So the accuracy problem that used to just slow you down internally now becomes an accuracy problem in every output the AI would give you. So this is usually a good place to give a disclaimer that AI is also not perfect and that its output should always be reviewed. But when I work with a company, this is usually step one before we touch anything AI related. We want to figure out what systems they're using, clean up the data, and connect it to something they actually own and control. Which, you don't need to overhaul your whole software stack, but if you do one thing, I would recommend figuring out which version of your key documents is actually current and make that the one everyone points to and organize into an easily accessible place. That alone will honestly put you ahead of most businesses that I see, and you can use AI to help you do it.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on that, Chris, the more and better data you have, the better you can use the AI tools that are out there, right? So if they are, if you've got bad data, if you don't have good information, AI tools are going to give you bad output. So we want to make sure that we're using good information.
For sure. And that ties really well into this next part about teaching AI about your business. So let's say you have the right information organized and cleaned up. I would feed AI real context, not just a vague message, but actual specifics, what you sell, who buys it, what makes you different from the guy down the street doing the same thing. What's great about AI is that you're not going to just type in a paragraph and be done. It's iterative, so you can have a back and forth conversation with it. And a key tip, one of my favorite ways to do this is to flip the direction. You could have it. I have AI ask me questions about how I operate and what makes my process different. Then I also have it summarize it back to me. So that allows me to get more usable context out of it than if I tried to write a perfect prompt explaining my business myself. All right. So this is the same approach as above, but aimed towards sales and marketing. The whole general idea is you want to be able to give it as much context as possible. So this is where your context turns into targeting. If AI knows who your actual customer is, not just tourists, but the specific person, their specific problem, the specific objection they raise before they buy, it can produce marketing copy that's actually built for that person specifically. Whereas if you were to just ask AI to write me a Facebook post, you get a generic post that won't resonate with any of your targeted audiences. And to strengthen that even further, you can give it your voice, which is the same principle, but just a different input. This time, you're feeding it your actual content, such as old emails, social posts, or blog content. What's happening under the hood is the AI is pattern matching your sentence structure, your word choice, and what you tend to emphasize. When you give it 3 or 4 real examples, it stops sounding like a generic AI and starts sounding like you specifically. That's the difference between context you have to heavily edit and content you have to basically and basically just send with less manual fixes. So the outputs are way more consistent with how you actually sound without having to manually edit them. All right, so this is a high level of examples where AI can plug into a business, marketing, sales, services, operations. But in reality, there's no universal version of this. What works for a restaurant looks nothing like what works for a plumbing company, which looks nothing like what works for a payroll company. So don't take these as here's what to build, but take it as here's the category of problem AI is good at. And then it's on you or someone like myself to help figure out what that actually looks like inside your specific operation.
All right, so we're going to give a couple more specific examples just on a few specific industries we've pulled out. So we talked about a little bit of restaurants, right? I was talking to one of our restaurant clients yesterday. Over the weekend, I convinced him finally to get a Claude license and start playing around with it, right? So, hey, this is what I've got in the cooler. Help me make some specials to sell it, right? Here's my invoice from US Foods. Here's my menu. Help me run my food cost. Help me figure that out, right? Use the data. It can parse data and information much faster than you can. No spreadsheets needed. Again, you can create these skills within these tools that are repetitive, so you can use the same skill over and over and over. Certainly we can upload our reviews, right? Let's say, here's my open table account. Go look at my reviews and draft responses for me, right? Good, bad, or ugly, we want to know about them. Certainly, let's work on server training, right? Upload your handbook, upload your, brand information, your menu, anything you've got, your processes, get that information in there and say, okay, now let's create, our server training guide, server training sheet, whatever we want to do, however we want to do that. So just some ideas that anybody can use, in that restaurant industry. A lot of people think that AI is really good for white collar, worlds, which of course it is, but it's really not limited to that. There's really so many different uses. We look at kind of retail, e-commerce. We want to be doing our, get our website out there, get our website seen. Let, these AI tools be your SEO, your search engine optimization, or now your AEO, your AI engine optimization toolkit, right? Say, hey, this is what I need. I want to have, here are my products. I need to generate a new website talking about them and make sure that, AI is going to go pick that up, right? Use those. Help me plan promotions, right? Help me plan my social calendar, my social media calendar. Here are some ideas of what I've done in the past. Here's when I'm having a sale, all that information and build that out. Perfect example, we have announcements that we can put onto our website and into isolved. And I went through last week and basically said, here are all some different ideas about our products or services that I want to put on our website. And Claude went and helped me plan that out for the next year. So I didn't have to go, manually do that. Of course, always some tweaks, but lots of planning and things like that you've got. And certainly, help me with my inventory, right? Help me figure out what I've got going on. What have I sold? What did I buy? What do I have left? What's selling the best, right? If you don't have good POS data, potentially, or you have good POS data and you want to import that or integrate that with one of these AI tools, if those exist, say, hey, what's my number one selling product? Who buys it? If it's online, you have, hopefully you have some customer information that you can go off of as well. So, and the trades, right? I mean, again, not something that a lot of folks would think about. in the trades, but there are absolutely ways that you can use this, in the trades. Talk about my notes from the job. I saw the new thing is we talked about those note taker apps for Zoom and for Teams. There are now note taking rings I've seen, the Apple Watches you can record, run that through and say, okay, create me an estimate, right? Or take my notes and help me create the job plan for this, right? Use those types of tools. Help me create, responses, right? How many of you have called a plumber or an electrician and never gotten a response, right? Mostly because they don't have time, right? Use those tools to create, templates that you can use over and over and over so that you don't have to recreate the wheel every time. We have a friend that, owns a store in town, and he did just this. When he gets an inquiry from his website now, he used AI to help create that response. Say, hey, here's how our process usually works. Stop in the store, blah, 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 blah. And, now he just has that saved and he uses it every time. So he doesn't have to rewrite that email every time. Certainly, we all want more reviews, right? So, when you send out, um, your invoice or whatever, write, a nice email that asks for those reviews. Use those tools, identify customers that you can ask for those reviews. So let's talk about responsible AI, right? There's a lot of conversations uh, systemically here about AI and its impact on the environment, on our world, on our culture. And certainly those are all really big issues that I'm not going to have answers for you today. But general ground rules for any business, and we should have put this one first, is that a paid license beats a free license on any AI platform across the board, right? So if you're using a free AI tool, generally speaking, they are learning from your inputs. They are using your data. Your data is the fee for using that platform. Okay. So anything you're putting in there is unsecure. We're going to speak to that a little bit more. So use a paid license and make sure that you have it turned off, that you do not want this platform learning from your inputs, right? That's really important. Certainly don't be uploading private information, socials, bank accounts, full employee information, anything sensitive. Anything you wouldn't just throw it out in the open web, you probably shouldn't be throwing in here either, right? Even though we're using paid licenses and things are secure, still want to have some good data security rules around that as well. So Chris spoke about this a little bit, but AI can be confidently wrong, very confidently wrong. It's going to tell you something and it's going to sound very confident and absolutely this is the right answer, and it's not. So be sure you're verifying everything that's coming out of that. Verify that tax, that legal compliance, anything critical or important, really anything at all, right? I mean, who wants to go put something out on their website that's wrong, right? You don't want to do that. So make sure you're reviewing that. There are different ways to control this. So sometimes I know in Claude there are global rules that you can put in there. And I have in one of my global rules, it says, if you're not sure about something, say so. Don't just tell me what you think I want to hear, right? That's really, really important in any AI use case is to give it really good instructions. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that as well. So, and again, put it in writing. We have an AI use policy here at Paper Trails. We encourage all of you to have an AI policy if you are using it. What can your employees use? How can they use it? What information can be put in there? Are there approval processes? So forth, so on. We're going to give you an AI policy that you can start with draft at the end of this presentation. So really, really put that into, and don't forget to tell your employees about it, right? It's no good if it's just in the drawer. Again, talking about this, the free versus paid, and this is kind of the holy grail, right? You need to understand that if you are using a free product, if you're using ChatGPT free, Claude free, any of those, even the Geminis and the Copilots free, you're not using the upgraded licenses on those that you are paying for, your data is at risk, right? The price that you are paying for the free plan is them using your data. So I very strongly encourage you to be buying licenses, restricting what your employees can use, right? At Paper Trails, we have Claude and Copilot, right? Those are the two tools that we have and we use. I have my IT people blocking ChatGPT. They block Gemini. They block all the most common other tools because I don't want my employees even having access to them while they're at work, right? I do not, we have paid versions of these products. That's in our AI policy, and that's what we use. So certainly with these paid plans, also you can put more privacy and security restrictions on there, right? We have our AI tools are managed with a single sign-on with our Microsoft accounts, which is even more secure. We're not having, extra password risk and so forth. So there's a lot of different security and admin controls you can put on a paid plan versus those free plans. So if you get one thing out of this entire, webinar, it is please, please, please pay for your AI licenses. So one of the things that everyone says is, how do I get started, right? And I think it takes a little bit of leadership from you and start small, right? Pick one or two tasks, right? What do I need help with today? What am I doing that's repetitive, right? These are the things that these AI tools are really good at. What do I need for ideation, right? What do I need help creating? Gosh, I'm stumped. How should I market my business? Ask those questions, right? Say I am in this business. This is who my customer is. What are 5 ways that I can go get 10 new clients tomorrow, right? Those are great things in there. I always say, share the wins that you have internally, right? So if everyone's using it a little different, everyone's at a different skill level, teaching, training all takes time. Um, we have a group chat in our teams that we share AI wins. Gosh, hey, I did this today. This worked really well. This didn't work really well, right? How do I fix this? At our weekly team meetings, we also take 5 minutes to talk about the same thing, right? Who had a good AI win this week? Who found something new that we can do, something really cool? We're in the process of building kind of knowledge agents, right? My team struggles with certain tasks and certain compliance things and configuration things within the system. We're uploading all of the documentation on those modules and all of our processes and our procedures. And again, Claude's really smart. So when one of you as our clients ask a question, we could take that question. If we don't know the answer, put it into that knowledge agent on what that specific topic we've built, and it'll help us, resolve that quicker. Because we don't have to go search. We don't have to physically go search 20 different help documents. We're going to let Claude do that for us, right? Perfect example, I have, general ledger, QuickBooks integration stuff, lots of variables. We've been building that Claude project for a couple of weeks now. I just ran through a really complicated, about 200-line general ledger and ran that through and said, build this for me. And it gave me step-by-step instructions on how to do it, gave me an import to import into isolved with all the general ledger information, and just saved me probably a half hour, 45 minutes or more by trying to figure that out and do that. So still have to do the work. I still have to gut check it, but it's giving me a lot more information up front. And we've trained it, so it's asking me the right questions, so it's giving me the right instructions. And we share that with our team. And learn from others, right? Borrow those prompts. If someone says, hey, I did this really cool thing, say, hey, what was the prompt you used to do that, right? Don't start from scratch. I mean, I was talking to a peer of ours, another payroll company out in Ohio this morning, and he and I were like, oh, this is what I'm doing. And he's like, this is what I'm doing. And I'm like, oh, that's really cool. Would you share that, right? Or how did you do that? What did you get that information from? So don't be afraid to talk to your peers, ask how everybody else is doing it, your team internally. Build that habit and start thinking in terms of how do we want to use these tools to make our business better, more efficient. We again give us back some time, right? So we can all go to the beach. That'd be nice. Maybe not today. It's not a great beach day here, but any other time. So
No, those are great, Chris. I just want to add one more thing. AI is a great brainstorm partner. Whether you're asking Claude, once you give it the context about your business, let's say Claude, for example, you can ask it about, give me some prompts that are some things I'm not thinking about, or you run through some different scenarios by it, some things you're thinking about. And you could also have it help you generate some prompts to give it a better targeted response. Since the AI knows what the AI it would be looking for in a prompt, it also does a really good job at creating prompts for you.
absolutely. So we're going to give you 2 takeaways today. One is this kind of AI use policy, and I will share what that looks like. This is going to get emailed out to everybody. So you'll have this artificial intelligence use policy, talks about who, what, when, where, why. There's kind of fill-ins for you to do this. Very generic. So please customize this to your business. I will tell you, there's no secret, we used AI to create this. So we uploaded our policy that we had already written, and we said, make a generic policy that we want to share with our webinar attendees. So certainly Use this, steal this, upload this to your AI tool, and ask it to customize it for you. So, and then roll it out. The other thing you're going to get today is a link to this app that Chris created. So this is kind of first 5 prompts to get you started. So we're going to send this link to you. But Chris, why don't you talk to us about what this is?
Yeah, for sure. It's just a really basic kind of first 5 prompts to someone to play around with Claude if you're really starting either from scratch or you've been playing around with Claude, but you want to start targeting it more for your business. Each prompt kind of helps people walk through giving Claude the context for the business. So these are copy and paste prompts. You can copy the prompt with the button down below and you just fill in what's in the yellow. And if you don't feel comfortable filling in some of these fields, you can skip them or just let Claude know maybe a range or some generic numbers, but the more specific, the better. So prompt 1 is just teaching Claude a little bit background about your business. Prompt 2 is mapping your operations and tools. So letting Claude learn about what software and systems you use and what the day to day looks like. And also, after you give Claude some of these prompts, you can also, there's then try asking. So these are some prompts for or questions to ask about the context that you had just given it. So prompt 3 is building an AI use policy. If you don't want to use what Chris is giving, then you could also build your own, or you could also put in that policy that he gives as a reference, and it can create a custom one for you. And then you can also try to have it tackle a real task right now. So you give it what you're trying to accomplish, the context that it will need, and what a good result will look like. And then finally, you can try to set up a weekly pulse check where it can help look at different metrics from a week to week basis or month to month basis to kind of help you keep a good pulse on your business or whatever metric you want to look at.
Yeah, and perfect example. We talked about data, right? We have Claude connected to HubSpot, which is our CRM. We have a Claude skill that runs every week with a prompt very similar to this that says, I want to see all the good and the bad and the ugly that happened in the last week, right? I can't read every ticket that comes in, can't read every email that comes in. My operations manager, Michelle, and I are busy running the business, but we run this kind of pulse check and say, I want to see what tickets came in that were really good. I want to hear, if clients were praising our employees. I want to hear what went really bad so we can follow up and make sure things got resolved appropriately and have a touch point with the client if we need to. I want to see if there's tickets that we missed, right? Gosh, we're human, right? Something got lost in the inbox. We don't want that to happen, right? We don't want to follow up on those. So these kind of pulse checks are really, powerful in what your terms you're doing. There are connectors for QuickBooks. So if you're a QuickBooks user, you can connect your QuickBooks and you can do these kind of things. What was my revenue this week versus last week, right? Why are my expenses so high? Why don't I have any money in the checkbook, right? Those are types of things that you can schedule, out every time you want to do things. So really powerful. Again, you're going to have the access to these prompts to get you started if you haven't already. Hopefully you've got some good ideas from that. So we're happy to take any questions that you might have, or what we can do. We talked about a little show and tell. So if there's something really cool that you're doing with an AI, you feel like sharing, feel free to do so. Next month, our webinar is talking about streamlining your workforce, employee onboarding and offboarding best practices, help you get employees on, get employees out, going from there and there. I have a good show and tell, I guess I can talk about as well. This webinar was built with Claude Design. What used to take John, our marketing director, 3 or 4 hours to create a webinar slide deck for me now takes him half hour. We give him our outline. It knows our brands, our colors. It's a way better designer than I am. It knows what we want, how we work, and it built this entire slide deck. John, chime in here if you like, in about a half hour. And then, we hopped on with Chris and said, hey, what do you think? He said, I want to tweak this. We said, Claude, change this, move this slide, change that wording, fix this, fix that, and all of our updates were there. So, again, what used to take John 3 or 4 hours to create a presentation for me is now less than half an hour, and so forth. So that's my share. What'd you do today, Chris? Anything fun and exciting?
No, just the traditional day to day. I always love having great conversations with business owners to learn about their operations and how they're using AI. So I had a few conversations this morning, which was really awesome to hear. And with this new technology, it's moving fast, like you mentioned before. So trying to keep your head wrapped around it is pretty difficult task. So I also implore everyone to try to stay up to date with everything, but also don't feel left behind because there's a lot of businesses out there that still don't really know where to start. So hope that this presentation was helpful.
See any questions? The chat's open, Q&A is open. You can certainly raise your hand if you want to speak. Happy to share anything. And certainly you can always reach out to us anytime as well. Reach out to our team. They can't get the answer for you. They'll reach out to me, whatever. Chris is available as well for any conversations that you might have if you're looking for a more AI expert. But appreciate everyone joining us today. I hope it was helpful. I hope we got some good answers and some good ideas to get growing business. So talk to you soon, and we'll talk to you next month. Thanks, everybody.